All right, all of our recent storms this year got me thinking about a 2019 story Andrew Stutzky did. Back then, he spoke with Dr. Victor Gensini from Northern Illinois University. He had done a groundbreaking study in 2018 looking at tornado patterns across the country. What he found was an eastward migration of the typical tornado alley. So now, 6 years after the initial study, we're revisiting some of those findings. It's why Dr. Victor Gensini joins us right now here on The Current. Doctor, thank you so much for being here with us. Can you remind us what are the traditional states we are referring to when we typically say tornado alley?
You know, that's a really good question. If I asked 100 meteorologists where Tornado Alley is and asked them to draw on a map the states that are included, we'd probably get 100 different answers. But typically, when we think of the highest density or frequency of tornadoes across the US, we're talking about the states of Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, and Nebraska.
Well, 6 years ago, you found that tornadic storms were shifting eastward, but I hesitate to even use the word shift. It's more like expanding, right?
It really is. And, we don't want people to think that Texas and Oklahoma, for example, don't get tornadoes anymore, but they are happening with less frequency there than they were 40 or 50 years ago. And places like Iowa, Illinois, Tennessee, Arkansas, much of the Midwest, much of the Mid-South, and much of the Northeast have seen increasing frequencies over the last 50 years. So it is sort of this dichotomy where we're seeing a greater frequency a little bit further east and still very high frequencies in places of the kind of traditional tornado alley, but just not happening there with the same prevalency as they were, say, 50 years ago.
Something that I think is so interesting is you had mentioned all this when we talked on the phone earlier about how you predicted this 6 years ago, but you said your predictions were almost conservative compared to today. What does that mean?
Well, if you take a look at the Quad City viewing area, for example, this year in 2024, some of your counties have already had 7 tornado watches and upwards of 11 tornado warnings, depending on where you were living in the Quad City viewing area. Just comparing this year to last year, for example, some areas, the state of Iowa, for example, has seen 126 tornado reports. That's up from 72 last year. The state of Illinois has seen 122 tornadoes already this year, and that's up from 118 over the entire year last year. So we're kind of seeing these frequencies continue to increase. Some of it is detection, but a lot of it is just changing weather patterns.
And something else that's really interesting, more tornadoes are occurring not just eastward, but in a different time of year. Talk about that.
Well, really what we're seeing is kind of a lengthening of the tornado season. It starts a little bit earlier, it ends a little bit later, and things kind of get quiet in August. But this year, we're if you look at the forecast, as you guys have been discussing over the next 10 days, this ring of fire pattern seems to remain. We'll probably have chances for severe, thunderstorm watches and tornado watches, several opportunities for that over the next couple of days. But it's really the tail ends of the season. Think January and February, usually cooler months. This year we had a record number of tornadoes in portions of the Midwest early in the season in January and February. So it is kind of this lengthening of the season, which is coincident with warmer temperatures in the cool season, say in like January and February.
Well, one of the reasons we only have a few seconds left that I wanted to talk to you today is not to freak people out, but just to make people aware of the risks that are happening. So that's what you said to me earlier. People shouldn't think they're going to see tornadoes every single week in the Quad Cities.
That's right. They're very rare. But look, no matter what the calendar says, no matter what time of the year or where you live, it only takes one tornado to make your day a really bad day. And that's why we talk about contingency plans and making sure you have action plans in the case that you're under one of these severe weather warnings.
Dr. Gensini, I cannot thank you enough for your time. And honestly, we look forward to all of your future studies as well.
Thanks so much for having me.
All right, and for you guys at home, if you want to check out the original story and the article Andrew Stutzky did back in 2019, we do have that up on our website right now. All you have to do is click on the As Seen on TV tab.